Is it still a good idea to be or become a software developer? Many people have that on their minds because of AI. And we're all wondering, what's the role of software developers in the future? I was recently interviewed by one of my YouTube viewers, and we thought it would be a good idea to record the discussion because he's thinking of becoming a software developer and wondering what are the skills that are going to take him farthest as a software developer. So thank you, Tony Rodriguez, for talking with me. And I want to share this interview because I think we covered a lot of really valuable ground. I don't think Tony is like a typical person thinking about getting into the software industry. He's clearly, and you'll see this from our conversations, quite a bit more mature and quite a bit more aware of what the profession of software development is about. So I was very impressed about that, talking with him. So it was a great and fun conversation. There was problems with his audio, so I'm going to put some subtitles in, and then I'll answer his questions. So enjoy, and if you want to continue that conversation, please feel free to add to the comments, because both Tony and I would love to hear from you. So this is the Passionate Programmer. This is my first real interview. I'm very excited, and thank you so much for talking with me. Tonatio, is that how we pronounce your name?
Yeah, excellent. Tonatio. Yeah, my friends call me Tony.
Tony. Okay, I'll call you Tony. Thank you. And I hope in our conversation today we're going to dive into some of my views about what software development is and isn't, because I think everybody misunderstands it. I think it's completely misunderstood. And what it really is truly amazing and incredibly powerful and creative. We're just focusing actually on just one side of it. That's the challenge, and that's the challenge with industry and with education around it. I believe, and you asked me, should I go for my computer science degree? I believe that they're teaching information that is a quarter of a century out of date, completely out of date. No one in industry uses what I see in most curriculums of computer science. And those are the details and the skills that AI will be able to handle for us. The minutia, what is the backing data structure behind this interaction that I'm going to be doing? Those things we can let AI help us with. What we need to do as the humans in the equation is the creative side, is the problem-solving side, is the visualization side, is the discovering how to create designs that are resilient to change, and understanding the evolution of a product so that we can allow it to change more easily. These are things that humans are not paying attention to today. They're costing industry and they're costing software development enormous amounts of money. And they'll be the only things left for us to do once AI takes over in the sense of when AI starts to assist humans in writing code. One of the questions you asked me was, what was my journey? But when I went to school back in the age of the dinosaurs, my college didn't even have a computer science degree. So what we did was the chair of the chemistry department and I found that there was an old PDP-8 sitting in a corner somewhere in the chemistry department. And we dusted it off, and that was the beginning of the computer science degree at Sarah Lawrence College, where I went. So we were learning as we went, which was kind of cool. It was pretty exciting. And I actually didn't put much emphasis on software development because it was super easy for me. And by the way, the kind of problems we solved back then, 30 years ago, were much more trivial than the problems that people solve today. So, of course, the tools were much more rudimentary as well. So, to me, it was really easy to do. So, I just did it. But I wanted to be a scientist. I wanted to discover how we think and how we model the world. It's also so clear that you're passionate, if that's really the right word. You're passionate like I am about life and about these ideas. So thank you for that too.
I realize there's so much more that we don't know.
Yes, indeed. And it is a constant learning process. The people who like that in software, are attracted to it. There's a lot of people in the world who don't. They just want to punch a clock. And software development is definitely not the right field for them. So what I think is that, first of all, like I was saying, we misunderstand what software development is. And so that's why schools are teaching the wrong thing. That's why employers are looking for the wrong thing. And if you look at any job description, they want to know your experience with the language, with the framework, with all that stuff, right? It's like saying to someone, we need somebody who knows how to read and write because we're going to have them write books. But have you read War and Peace, Moby Dick, and fairy tales? Because you have to read those books, because if you don't know how to read. That's not true, right? It's just one particular thing, right? And so people are looking for skills, and what we really need to do is look for potential. Look for people's abilities, because those skills you can learn like that. I mean, you can learn a programming language in a week or a couple of weeks, or a framework in a weekend. But what people don't have, and this is across the board I see, is the skills around how to build software that's maintainable. One of the things you asked me is, well, what are the skills that developers need? And I started to create a list, and it's completely different than the list that I see other people have. Because, again, I think that software development is misunderstood. Those key skills are problem-solving skills, abstraction skills, being able to visualize. And I've worked with tens of thousands of professional developers. And when I ask them, what are the key skills? Do you agree that some of the key skills as being a developer is being able to solve problems, being able to, abstract things, finding commonalities? Yes, they say, but I don't see very many programs, any computer science programs that have courses that teach that or books that talk about that. And so it's like, okay, these are the important skills, but who is teaching them? Where do I go to learn them, Those are the challenges.
That's interesting. Why do you think that is?
It's because people completely misunderstand what software development is. So I think that our development doesn't end when we get the computer to do what we want it to do. We have to go back and say, how do we make this supportable? How do we make it understandable to other people? And when we ask those questions, because these are the most fruitful questions to ask, then we start to build stuff that lasts longer in the field. So you were asking about what are some of the skills? What are the key skills? And I'll list some of them for you, and I think that they're not on people's radar. So number one skill, refactoring. And when I talk to senior developers, they're like, what? Refactoring? What? Most developers have heard of refactoring. They know that it is changing the design without changing the behavior of the code. But like a lot of managers, they wonder, why would I do that? Why would I go into code that's working and change it? If it's doing what I want it to do, then I'm done, right? No. Because there's an enormous amount of risk involved. And to go from one design to another design, it's not oftentimes a straight line. We have to go through the process. And understanding the process of changing designs is vitally important. It's as important as factoring an equation is to a mathematician. Imagine being a professional mathematician and going, I don't factor equations. We don't do those things. We just come up with formulas. Every equation would be miles long and it would take forever to read, right? Factoring is a key part of mathematics. Refactoring is a key part of software development, and very few people know how to do it. Design patterns is another thing that I think incredibly valuable and super useful for developers to understand. Have you looked at patterns? I don't recommend Gang of Four to read.
Okay.
This one is called Design Patterns Explained by Al Shalloway and Jim Trott. This is the second edition, and it's my favorite book. So I think it's a great book on patterns. Yes. And of course, if we're talking about other books, I also want to recommend my book, my first book. Have you checked it out? I think that it talks a lot about the philosophy behind the technical practices and why they're valuable.
Not yet, but I'm definitely picking it up.
Love to know what you think of it. Cool, cool. So yeah, books. And when I was starting out in the field, there weren't very many good books. Today, there are a lot of really good books on software development. Also, I think that we as software developers have a very important role in the future, not just to show the world how AI can actually help us, but to increase the velocity of humanity. Things are changing so rapidly, and they need to change rapidly because we're running out of time in a lot of places in our world, in our civilization. And what we do as software developers help us respond quicker. Look at computers and the internet that has changed. We used to have to carry messages by horseback across the country. Now we can just electronically interact. So I feel like our role is so critically important to the future of humanity. And learning these skills are really going to help. I think we covered a bunch of stuff. Oh, so I just wanted to very quickly mention some of the things that are coming up on this channel that you might find interesting this year. So, and I think about a season, a quarter at a time. So the first quarter was really about AI and software development. I'm going to be focusing on what I call 7 strategies in the next quarter. They are different areas in software development and different strategies for doing continuous integration or test first development or other skills or growing as a developer or whatever. So that's Q2. Hopefully by Q3 then, we'll do what I call the layer cake. And these are a series of principles and practices and patterns that I find that are most valuable for developers. I want to spend this year really focusing on the background material for people, because next year I want to dive into completely different areas. And I find that having the background will be really, really relevant. So a lot of background stuff, but a lot of stuff that probably most developers, even senior developers, haven't been exposed to. Principles, like the solid principles, practices, code qualities, virtues in software, and all of those become the foundation for understanding design patterns. So those are just a quick thumbnail of what I'm planning. I have so much that I want to share that I want to try to figure out how to get from my head into the world. My pleasure. My pleasure. Great talking with you. Thank you, Tony. And looking forward to continuing our conversation. So best of luck and keep me posted.
Thank you so much. Have a good weekend.
Okay, you do. Bye-bye.